The new transfer student in the class was a cripple. When he was bullied by all the students in the school, I was the only one who treated him well. But he fell in love with the school beauty, and even tricked me out to the gangsters outside the school to please the school beauty. When I was raped by the gangsters, the school beauty stood by and clapped happily. But he didn't even look at me, just lowered his eyelashes and asked the school beauty carefully, "I have tricked him out as you said, so can you try to like me now?" I finally died with hatred, and when I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day when he just transferred to the school. There was a new transfer student in the class. The boy had delicate eyebrows and eyes, but unfortunately he had a disabled leg and walked with a limp. There was always a gloomy look in his expression. The teacher asked him to introduce himself, and he just opened his mouth lightly and dropped 3 words, Chenyenche, that was his name. Immediately, a classmate snorted in disdain. What a thing. Just 3 words to introduce yourself. You are pretending to be cool. Look at his legs. Turns out that he has a disabled person. Hey, did you see it just now? His walking posture is too funny. I also think that a lame person is pretending to be cool. It's really funny. Isn't it disgusting? Walk, walk, walk. I will learn it for you after class. His walking must be very funny. Haha. Last time I felt that my classmates were talking too much. I was so excited that I felt that I was the salvation of Chenyenche. Not only did I speak for him, but I also took the initiative to approach him afterwards. At that time I didn't know that Chenyenche was a venomous snake. He won't be grateful to me. Even if I help him, I will only be bitten to death by him one day in the future. So this time I saw him being ridiculed by everyone again, and I chose to stand by and watch. Facing the continuous sarcasm and ridicule, Chenyenche said nothing and looked at the audience coldly. But in his eyes there was still a flash of pain that was difficult to conceal, and the corners of his lips were tightly pursed. Even the hand holding the strap of the school bag was so hard that the joints turned white, and there was a slight tremor when I looked closely. I looked at his pretending to be indifferent and sneered in my heart. I felt embarrassed, but not this time. I will stand up to help him again. At this time the teacher finally knocked on the blackboard and interrupted everyone to say, Okay, be friendly to the new students. Who of you is willing to be a deskmate with Chenyenche? Raise your hand for the teacher to see. No one raised their hand. After a long while some students laughed loudly. Teacher, who is willing to be a deskmate with him? He has a lame leg and is cold and silent. Scary to look at him. Then someone immediately refuted him. Who said no one was willing? Didn't Inchi say anything just now? He is a good student who always ranks first in the grade. Maybe he is willing to help others. Inchi is me. After this the classmates turned their heads and looked in my direction. Chenyenche also raised his eyes and his sight fell on me. Inchi's desk in front of him tapped my desk with his fingers and curved his eyes meaningfully. Do you want to sit with the new classmate in our class? I pretended to be surprised and even deliberately knocked off the pen at hand. After reacting, I shook my head repeatedly. No, I don't want to be his desk mate. His lame leg. I raised my head and looked at Chenyenche standing on the podium. The disgust in my eyes was not concealed at all. I opened my mouth and said almost word by word, "It looks disgusting." The teacher finally arranged for Chenyenche to sit alone in the corner of the classroom. He nodded, his face was cold, he carried his school bag, and walked to the stage without saying a word. When he passed by me, his elbow accidentally touched me. I paused in my book-taking action and immediately dodged with disgust. Seeing this, the person in front of him curled his lips, deliberately emphasized his tone, and laughed loudly at Chenyenche's back, saying that this cripple was too unpopular. Even our class monitor, who was always gentle, had this attitude towards him. As for Maingshi, the new classmate just touched you, and you reacted so strongly. Do you really hate him so much? Hearing this, I stopped my hand that was about to take a pen to write the question and said, I just hate this cripple. I feel unlucky sitting in the same classroom with him. Is it that serious? Of course it is. After all, Chenyenche was the culprit who killed me in my previous life. In his last life, Chenyenche was bullied by the whole school, but I was the only one who was willing to treat him well. When he was splashed with dirty water and soaked all over, I was the only one who covered him with clothes and brought him hot water. Later one day, Chenyenche suddenly sent me a message. Can you wait for me after school? I have something to tell you. I held my phone, and my heart almost jumped out of my throat. I even imagined that I was the heroine in a youth redemption article. A kind and good girl redeems a disabled teenager in the abyss, and Chenyenche is my hero. After school that day, I went to the appointment on time with excitement, but Chenyenche tricked me into handing me over to a group of gangsters. He pursed his lips and looked at me coldly, his eyes colder than ice, tempting me. I said, You came out when I asked you to. Why are you so stupid? Do you think I will be grateful to you if you give me some small favors? He smiled and said, I don't care. Before I completely lost consciousness, The last scene I remembered was that I was dragged into a dark alley by a group of gangsters with laughter. Xiaohua came out from nowhere and stood by, watching me clapping happily and laughing so hard that she could hardly straighten her waist, as if my miserable situation was nothing more than an interesting pastime to him. Chen Yanqi didn't even give me a glance. He lowered his eyes and looked at the school bell cautiously and asked him, I have tricked him out as you said, so can you try to like me now? I was self-righteously nice to Chen Yanqi, but in the end, I became his bargaining chip to please the school bell. Suddenly at the classroom door, there was a burst of noise interrupting my thoughts. I looked up and saw Shen Qingran, surrounded by a group of followers, walking in from the door. Shen Qingran was the recognized school beauty of No. 1 middle school. In the No. 1 middle school campus where most of the students wore loose school uniforms, were covered in dust and only focused on studying all day, she was passionate, beautiful and flamboyant. She ignored the school rules and came to school with heavy makeup every day. She was the object of envy and pursuit of many people in the school. It was also her previous life. She instructed Chen Yanqi to throw me to that group of shameless gangsters. As expected, as soon as she walked into the door, a classmate from our class immediately came up to greet her. Sister Ran, how come you have time to come to our place? You are here to look for someone. Yes, looking for someone. Shen Qingran lowered her head and blew on her newly done manicure, blinked and smiled. I heard that a cripple just transferred to your class. We haven't had any new fun for a long time, so I came to see you. The classmate smiled and answered him. That's right, he just transferred in this morning. He is so cold and doesn't even want to say a word to us. After saying that, he immediately turned around and kicked Chen Yanqi hard. Shen Qingran kicked the table and said, Our sister Ran is looking for you, you lame man. The kick was very strong and all the books on the table fell to the ground. He bent down silently to pick them up, but before he could reach out halfway, the books were stepped on by Shen Qingran. He bent down and looked at Chen Yanqi with a smile. Didn't you hear me just now? I came here specially to see you, but with this attitude you didn't even look at me. How polite is that? You have a lame leg and are you deaf too? You can't hear me talking. Raise your head. Chen Yanqi raised his head and looked at him with resentment, but after Shen Qingran saw his face clearly, his eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly reached out and pinched Chen Yanqi's chin. Oh, he looks pretty good, much better than other boys in our school. Otherwise, Shen Qingran lifted her hair and said slowly, Be my boyfriend. How about it? When the onlookers heard what he said, they exploded instantly. No way, Sister Ran, you are not interested in this choice. How lucky is this kid to be favored by our Sister Ran? He didn't even take my flowers, he's a cripple, how could he be worthy? Shen Qingran sneered indifferently, what's wrong with being a cripple? He's good-looking. After a pause, he turned to Chen Yanqi again, leaned over and got closer to him. Hey, I'm asking you a question, can you be my boyfriend? Chen Yanqi pried his hands apart. He stood up awkwardly with the help of the desk, and only said 2 words. No, Shen Qingran has been a celebrity in the school since the day he entered school. He has always been the only one who has rejected other people's meals, and he has never. Boys will reject him. He was now being insulted by Chen Yanqi, and his face changed on the spot, but he quickly adjusted back to that smiling look. He stood up slowly, then took a bottle of milk handed to him by the little follower next to him, unscrewed it and poured it on his shoes. The milky white liquid poured down. Shen Qingran smiled, lowered his head and said, What should I do? My shoes are dirty. You. He raised his eyes and stared at Chen Yanqi's face, enunciating each word clearly. Kneel down and lick it clean for me. Everyone present was stunned. Then they all burst into laughter. Haha, our Sister Ran is still good at playing tricks on people. You should hold back, Sister Ran. Don't let this cripple play with you to death. Chen Yanqi lowered his head, bit his lower lip tightly. His palm was almost pinched to bleed. For a long time he did not make any other moves. Shen Qingran frowned impatiently. His followers took 3 or 2 steps forward and held Chen Yanqi down, forcing him to kneel down. In the chaos, Chen Yanqi turned his head, his eyelashes trembled. His eyes passed the crowd and fell on me. Inshi. He called me with his mouth name. Help me, save me. Shen Qingran noticed his gaze, smiled lightly, and gave me a warning look. Inshi, don't meddle in other people's business. Joke about minding his business. I folded my arms and sneered, turned around and left. The moment I walked out of the classroom, there was a sudden cry behind me. I stopped and looked back and saw Chen Yanqi's clenched hands slowly loosen, and then he actually knelt down, lowered his head and drooped his eyelids, and licked the milk on the tip of Shen Qingran's shoe. Even Shen Qingran's followers couldn't help but follow. He took 2 steps back. Damn, is he a dog? He just does whatever I tell him to do and is disobedient. What are you talking about? It's his honor to lick Sister Ran's shoes, okay? Seeing how unconvinced he was just now, I thought he was quite strong-willed. He gave in so quickly. Shen Qingran curled the corners of his lips proudly. When Chen Yanqi stood up, he reached out and pulled him. Then, he waited leisurely to observe Chen Yanqi's reaction. From beginning to end, Chen Yanqi's expression didn't change at all. After he stood up, raised the back of his hand, wiped the remaining milk stains on the corner of his lips, looked up at Shen Qingran, and asked him coldly if I could leave now. Shen Qingran did not comment. He chuckled and walked forward, raised his hand and patted Chen Yanqi's face, but he frowned and turned his head away. He was not angry. Very good. I like your lukewarm attitude. Wait, I will come to you again. During the lunch break, I took the test paper and prepared to ask the physics teacher for the solution to the last big question. After all, I didn't even make it to the college entrance examination last time. And participate, I have to cherish the opportunity again no matter what. Learning is the top priority at this stage. When I was about to reach the office, Chan Yenche limped up and blocked me. Wait, I frowned and tried to walk around him, but he grabbed my sleeve. Chan Yenche's tone was full of uncontrollable anxiety. You don't want to see me so much, you don't even want to say a word to me. I subconsciously raised my hand to shake him off, and observed his expression, smiled after a moment and deliberately asked him, classmate Chan, there are so many people in this school who hate you, why do you have to chase me? Because you are different from them. His expression stagnated slightly, pursed his lips, hesitated in his words. I want to know why you treat me like this. I don't believe it's really just because of my leg. And seeing Shen Qingran coming to me, do you really have no feelings at all? It's really interesting, in my last life I always protected Chan Yenche, but he never even bothered to give me a glance. This time I avoided him like a snake and scorpion. Instead, he took the initiative to ask me why I had that attitude towards him. Could it be that he was reborn like me? Coincidentally, at this moment, a classmate came hurriedly with a physics book and knocked on the door of the physics office before me. Seeing that the time for asking questions at noon was taken by someone else, I looked at Chan Yenche with disgust. I hate you and don't need a reason. You are blocking the way. Get out of here. In the afternoon class, the teacher announced that our class would set up a physics learning mutual aid group. He held a stack of test questions in his hand and pushed his glasses with one hand. This class time is left for everyone to do. For this set of test questions, who will be in the same group will be determined by the score. Students who are assigned to the same group will be deskmates in the future, and no objections are allowed. Physics teacher Inshi waved at me and said, "You are the class representative. Come and help distribute the test papers." I took the test paper and distributed it one by one. The last one was given to Chan Yenche, who was sitting in the corner. He did not reach out to take the test paper, but raised his eyes and looked at me steadily. There was clearly no regret in his eyes. Chulai de Funchir, English. There were so many emotions, but they made me feel cold for no reason. I slapped the test paper on his desk as if I had been stung by a scorpion, and hurried back to my seat. After the in-class test, the teacher corrected the papers in class, and then the results of the grouping were announced. The teacher of Group 7 read out Inshi and Chan Yenche, and the teacher also specifically reminded Inshi, "You have good grades. Chen Yenche has just transferred to our school, and he is not very clear about our teaching progress, and it is not very convenient for him to move around. Remember to help him more often." I maintained my image as a good student and nodded obediently. Then I turned my head and looked at Chen Yenche. He restrained his brows and smiled gently at me. According to the rules the teacher said before class, people who are assigned to the same group will be deskmates in the future. After class, Chen Yenche moved his desk and books to next to me. I moved in a bit and said to Chen Yenche in a cold voice, "I don't approve of this mutual aid group. After the monthly exam, I will go to the teacher to change my seat on the grounds that my grades have been affected. During this period, no matter if you have something to do or not, don't talk to me and don't disturb me while I'm studying." Oh, by the way, before he could answer, I changed the subject. The test questions were not difficult. You must have made a few mistakes on purpose just to be assigned to the same group with me. Chen Yenche paused, and I could see that Chen Yenche's grades were not bad, especially in physics. Otherwise, he would not have been in the third year of high school and transferred to our class halfway. So he deliberately left a blank score and took the test with the highest probability of being assigned to the same group with me. Why? I asked him, if you had grown up, you would have been able to see that I don't like you. But even so, you still tried your best to move next to me. You are so mean and only like people who don't like you. Facing my undisguised sarcasm, Chen Yenche just pursed his lips slightly, then he pulled out a chair and sat down next to me. "I have something to tell you," he said. I nodded, motioning him to say it if he had anything to say. In fact, I already had a rough idea of what he was going to tell me. Chen Bing was about to surface, and my hand holding the pen tightened. Sure enough, the next moment Chen Yenche's words confirmed my guess. "Inshi, you hate me so much because you came back like me, right?" I didn't answer him, and then said that I was sorry for you in the last life. Whether you believe it or not, I really regret it. I shouldn't have treated you like that at that time. Since I can do it again, I just want to try my best to be nicer to you. Can you? Before he finished speaking, a classmate knocked on the window. "Chen Yenche, sister is waiting for you at the door." I looked at the door and saw Shan Qingran leaning against the door frame with his arms folded. He was not wearing a school uniform, but was wearing lipstick and a cigarette in his mouth. His eyes were looking in the direction of Chen Yenche and me. Chen Yenche glanced at me, got up and walked towards the door. Before he could speak, Shan Qingran raised his hand and slapped him in the face. Chen Yenche's head tilted away, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his lips. Shan Qingran raised his hand and grabbed his hair again. The two were pulled very close to each other, and their lips were almost touching. Shan Qingran took the cigarette from his mouth. I thought it was bad luck to touch it. I stared at the finished physics test paper on the table and put a check mark on the last question, estimating that Chen Yenche would be back soon. Then I raised my head and answered the student in front of me in a deliberately ambiguous tone, shyly and timidly. "You said Chen Yenche likes me, is it true?" "It's impossible, don't talk nonsense." The student in front of me curled his lips and raised his chin slightly, motioning me to look behind him. I turned around and saw Chen Yinche standing behind me. He obviously heard what I said just now. He didn't say anything but pulled out a chair and sat down next to me. I immediately switched to that evil expression, got up and left with the textbook, and kicked the corner of his desk before leaving. Chen Yinche raised his head and looked at me. I glanced at his wrist that was ulcerated by cigarette butts, took out a band-aid and threw it on his desk and said coldly, "Put it on and don't speak." He was stunned for a moment, whispered a thank you, took the band-aid, and waited until I walked out of the classroom before I finally couldn't help but chuckled. Chen Yinche was really reborn, that's great. The person in front of me is the one who hurt me in my previous life. So all my hatred for him is justified, and any fate he gets is what he deserves. It also happened in my previous life that Shen Qingran forced Chen Yinche to be her boyfriend, and Chen Yinche agreed without much recommendation at that time. Shen Qingran thought he was boring and dumped him after a few days. He kept rejecting Shen Qingran, but Shen Qingran became interested in him instead, and came to see him every now and then, and Chen Yinche sitting next to me, he always had new wounds on his body. I occasionally bought medicine for him and pretended to show some concern for him. On Wednesday morning when I went to school in the morning, I ran into Chen Yinche being surrounded by a group of gangsters outside the school, and dragged into the alley. Shen Qingran's father was a nouveau riche who made his fortune halfway. Although he always disliked Shen Qingran for being a girl and told everyone that his wife was not pregnant and gave him a money-losing child, he was still generous in spending money on Shen Qingran. Shen Qingran was rich, so this area within 5 kilometers was full of people. The hooligans in the school all followed his lead. Chen Yinche had offended Shen Qingran, which meant he had offended that group of hooligans. He dared to offend Shen Qingran, so of course that group of people would find an opportunity to teach him a lesson. I saw it, but pretended not to see it and walked into the school to attend class as usual. Halfway through the morning self-study, Chen Yinche finally walked into the classroom, sweating all over. He tried his best to pull up his scarf to cover half of his face, but it still couldn't cover up the bright red scratches on the side of his face. The teacher said half of the reprimand when he saw his face. After seeing the injury on his face, he swallowed it back and only asked him what happened to the injury on your face and whether you need a classmate to accompany you to the infirmary. Chen Yinche shook his head and said, "No teacher, I'm fine. I just accidentally fell when I rode my bike to school this morning." The classmate sitting in the first row covered his face with a book and laughed. "If you get beaten, just say you get beaten. This cripple is quite proud." After listening to this, Chen Yinche had a blank expression and no reaction. He nodded slightly to the teacher, walked back to his seat and sat down, then raised his hand. He took out an apple from his pocket and handed it to me. He smiled faintly and said, "Merry Christmas Eve." I looked at him sideways. His usually clean school uniform was covered with dust and torn in many places. All the exposed skin on his body was either bruised or bleeding and red, but even so, the apple he handed me was intact. It seemed that when he was beaten, he was still carefully protecting the apple he was going to give me. I told him coldly that I didn't eat apples, but in fact I took it from Chen Yinche and put it away carefully. Chen Yinche smiled, took out his homework and started to write questions, but no one saw it. When there was no one in the classroom at noon, I took out the apple, wrapped it with the test paper that I didn't perform well in the last exam, and threw it into the trash can together. These things that are destined to rot and stink should not stay in my life. In the afternoon, Chen Yan withdrew from her seat, glanced at my desk, and asked me where the apple was in unison. "You want me to race against time to finish the questions?" I answered him without raising my head. He nodded and smiled, "Okay." Then he asked, "Can we walk together after school in the evening?" "What?" I stopped writing. This time I was really confused. I looked up at him. "Why do we have to walk together? We are not going the same way. I am afraid Shen Qingran will do something to you." He said, "I will walk with you after school. I will send you home first, and then I will go back," as if to confirm what Chen Yinche said. The next moment, a basketball was thrown in through the open window, and it hit me on the head. I felt a sharp pain on the top of my head. I raised my head and saw Shen Qingran lying with his chin propped up on the window, looking at me with a smile. "Oh, sorry." Classmate Yin's hand slipped. There was no time to think more. I raised my hand. I returned a slap to Shen Qingran. With a loud slap, the hair on the side of her face was disheveled, and a red mark appeared on her fair face. At this time, Chen Yinche stood up suddenly, stretched out his hand to pull me behind him, raised his eyes and said to Shen Qingran, "Don't go too far. Just come to me if you have anything to say." She didn't know anything. The follower behind Shen Qingran was stunned for a moment. "No way, Sister Ran, this kid actually dared to resist you, and for another woman it's really funny." Shen Qingran didn't respond to his words, but just stared at Chen Yinche, who was blocking me in front of me. After a moment he sneered, turned around and left with his men. After school in the evening, fine rain floated in the sky, and then turned into a downpour. Chen Yinche insisted on sending me home. I ignored him and got on the bus with an umbrella. When he caught up with me, the bus was already packed with people. I thought I was finally able to have some peace and quiet, but not long after the bus drove out, I saw Chen Yinche riding a bicycle through the car window, chasing the bus not far away. I put on my headphones and sneered in my heart. He gave me an apple that I don't like to eat, and stood in front of me and said a few words for me when I didn't need it. It was meaningless to chase the bus in the rain, and it was all self-touching. I was too good to Chen Nianch in my previous life, and I protected him too much, so he felt that if he gave me some small favors, I would be grateful to him and forget what he had done to me in the previous life. Well, after the bus arrived at the station, I did not enter the community, but stood there waiting with an umbrella. A few minutes later, Chen Yenche came over on a bicycle and stopped in front of me. It was the cold weather in December and he was wet all over. His school uniform stuck to his skin, and the rain dripped down his bangs. He was so cold that even his teeth were trembling. "You got home safely," I laughed and said. "Then I'll go back first." "Wait." When Chen Yenche was about to turn around and leave, I called him. He turned around in surprise. I took out a banknote and wiped it for him. "Chen Yenche," I looked at him and whispered, "you must have been very tired during this period. You have to deal with Shen Qingran, deal with that group of gangsters, come to school for classes and find time to please me. What are you trying to do?" Obviously, if you just stayed away from me, Shen Qingran wouldn't always bother you. Chen Yenche lowered his hands, pursed his lips and was silent for a long time. Then he carefully spoke to me and said, "Whether you believe it or not, after you left in the last life, I found that the person I liked was actually you. I regret every day that I treated you like that. Since God has given me a chance to start over, I just want to try my best to treat you better. Whether you are willing to forgive me or not." I moved half of the open umbrella to the top of his head. "You just said that you actually like me, and now I asked if you still like me." Chen Yenche was silent for a moment, nodded gently. "Then he whispered, "Are you willing to give me another chance?" I didn't comment, but tell him, when I was doing reading comprehension, I saw a term called suspension bridge effect. On a suspension bridge, due to dangerous situations, people's heartbeats will unconsciously speed up, and they will mistakenly understand the faster heartbeats caused by this situation as a physiological reaction caused by the other party making their hearts beat. So they will develop a feeling of love for the other party. So you can tell whether your heartbeat at this moment is due to the intense exercise just now or because of me. Chen Yenche's eyes trembled and he lowered his eyes to me. "But I am sure it is because of you, Inshi. I like you. Are you willing to be with me?" I raised my hand and touched his hair, and smiled at him gently. "You go back, I'll think about it." After Chen Yenche left, I took a taxi and followed him quietly. He just said, "I don't believe a word of the nonsense I said." According to my observation some time ago, Chen Yenche would secretly meet Shen Qingran almost every day after school, and today was no exception. Chen Yenche entered a coffee shop near the school. I took advantage of his inattention, mixed in with a few people, turned to the corner and sat down, picked up a magazine to cover my face, and saw that when Chen Yenche saw Shen Qingran, he walked over, lowered his head and hugged her waist, eagerly kissed her forehead and said, "Get out of here." Shen Qingran slapped him and pushed him away. "You just went to see Inshi, and now you come to kiss me, Chen Yenche, aren't you disgusted?" Chen Yenche lowered his eyes and raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his lips. He smiled helplessly and went up to hug Shen Qingran again. Shen Qingran asked for a kiss. "Qingran, please don't be angry, okay? Didn't I tell you? He and I are not really acting after this period of time. I will be yours alone." Shen Qingran wanted to say something, but he suddenly lowered his head and blocked her lips. He conquered her lips and teeth, and soon the breathing of both of them became rapid. After the long kiss, Chen Yenche let her go. She gasped slightly, held Shen Qingran in his arms, and said in a hoarse voice, "Qingran, believe me, no matter when, I only like you. It's really the same as I guessed. What Chen Yenche said to me about love, guilt and regret were all fake. He guessed that my father was reborn and approached me when I mocked him. He was just afraid that I would do harm to Shen Qingran because of what happened in my previous life. Because I protected him too much in my previous life, he probably really thought that I loved him to death. So he was not worried that I would hate him but was only worried that I would hate Shen Qingran. He wanted to deceive my trust first, and then find an opportunity to attack me, to eliminate an unstable factor that might threaten Shen Qingran. So even if he was beaten and scolded by Shen Qingran, beaten up by gangsters, and came to class every day with injuries all over his body, he still insisted on getting close to me. Chen Yenche really loves me, but why should you sacrifice me as a stepping stone for your great love? The temperature of the coffee was obviously not high, but I felt that the cup was extremely hot. Not far away, Shen Qingran had already left Chen Yenche. She broke free from Chen Yenche's arms. He lifted a handful of her hair, and threw a photo to Chen Yenche. "This person, I don't know his name, he just studies all day. I get annoyed when I see him, you help me deal with him." Chen Yenche took the photo, stared at the person in the photo and lowered her head without saying a word. The distance was too far, I couldn't see who the person in the photo was. I could only infer from the fact that I didn't know the name. At least it wasn't me. Chen Yenche didn't say anything for a long time. Shen Qingran frowned unhappily, slapped him, lit a cigarette and said fiercely, "Why, with this expression on your face, you don't want to feel sorry for that little bitch. You don't even want to help me do such a small thing. How dare you say you like me?" Chen Yenche said contemptuously, "Your liking is just a casual talk. I don't." Yes, Chen Yenche took the cigarette from Shen Qingran's mouth and put it out on his wrist. He put away the photo and replied calmly, "Don't worry, I will do as you say. I will never let anyone down, but I will never let you down." Shen Qingran raised her eyes and kissed her again. "You will understand. In this world, no one can love you more than me. I will give you everything you want." As soon as school was over the next day, Chen Yenche went in the direction of Daisy, which is a famous bar street in the city. There are all kinds of people there. I was close to Dazwa in my heart and followed him secretly all the way. Unfortunately, there were too many people on the road and I lost him several times. I found Chen Yenche in a KTV. He was in a leisurely posture. You leaned against the outside of a private room. On the wall, There was an unburned cigarette between his fingertips. It was the same brand as Shun Qingran's. A yellow-haired man came out from the inner room while putting on his clothes. I hid in the dark and took a breath of cold air. I recognized him almost instantly. This yellow-haired man was the last person I saw before I closed my eyes when I was dragged into the alley in my previous life. There was no mistake. The yellow-haired man walked up to Chen Yanche, smiled and said to him, "Brother Chun, everything you asked me to do has been done, and the photos have been taken. The girl is still crying inside. Do you want to go in and take a look?" No. Chen Yanche pressed the unburned cigarette but against the wall, extinguished it and said lightly, "Open the mobile payment code." "Oh, okay, thank you, Brother Chun." The yellow-haired man nodded repeatedly, took the money and left with many thanks. I curled my lips and smiled. After he left, I pressed the stop recording button on the phone screen. As soon as I went to school the next day, I knew who the girl was who was taken away by Chen Yanche yesterday, and who had taken photos after being bullied by Huang Mao. Because a group of ambiguous photos began to circulate in a small range in the school. The protagonists of the photos were Huang Mao, and a girl named Ji Pingan from the next class. In every photo, Huang Mao's face was blocked, while Ji Pingan's face was not blocked. The person who spread the photos also added a disgusting line of text. "She is a female academic bully in class 9, grade 3 of number 1 middle school. I didn't expect that she would play so many tricks in private. It's really eye-opening." These are the usual methods used by the beasts who spread the yellow rumors. Fortunately, Ji Pingan is a good person. Most of the students who saw the photos didn't continue to spread. Ji Pingan disappeared after the morning self-study get out of class. I skipped 2 classes, and finally found him on the rooftop of the junior high school teaching building. "You don't have to persuade me, and don't come over." When he saw me, his reaction was very calm. I didn't want to jump off the building, I just came out to take a breath. Inshi Ji Pingan suddenly asked me, "Do you know why I am called Ji Pingan? I was born in a small town. My whole family favors boys over girls. After I was born, my grandmother saw that I was a girl and wanted to throw me into the river to drown. My mother took me away soon after. She was weak all her life, and the bravest thing she had done was to divorce my father and then raise me alone. I am different from those of you who are born with superior educational resources. I can be exceptionally. I was admitted to the number 1 middle school in the city. I have put in 100 times and 1,000 times more effort than others. I have finally made it to this point. There is less than half a year left before the college entrance examination. I will not and cannot just leave like this." He looked downstairs and uttered the last 2 words. "Go to hell." That's just the right time for me to breathe a sigh of relief and smile. I didn't come here to persuade you. At this time I had already walked to Ji Pingan. Before I finished speaking, I was interrupted by the sound of his cell phone vibrating. It was a message from an unfamiliar number. The content was very brief. "Since you are a student, I won't ask for more from you. Please pay 10,000 yuan as soon as possible, otherwise I have more photos here. If you dare to call the police, I will make all the photos public immediately." Ji Pingan's expression froze and I said to him in a soft tone, "Tell him I'll give you some time to raise money, try to delay time, keep the chat records and transfer records, save the audio if there is a call. The other party is obviously someone hired by Chen Yanche, and asking for money is probably his idea. After all, Shen Qingran is not short of money, but he is very short of it. I still have 2 videos of Chen Yanche meeting Shen Qingran and Huang Mao yesterday, which contain a lot of useful information. After the college entrance examination, none of these bastards can escape. In the last 6 months before the college entrance examination, Ji Pingan used the reason of needing time to raise money to remit some money every once in a while, like squeezing toothpaste, forming a short and delicate balance between the other party and the person blackmailing him. Chen Yanche went to Shen Qingran more and more frequently, and I was even often in school. I could also see them kissing in the corner. In the 3rd mock exam, I got the 1st place in the grade. Chen Yanche came back from outside, smiled, touched my head and said, "Congratulations, Xiaoxi." I knew that the person I like would not be bad. I looked at the red marks on his collarbone that were not completely covered by his school uniform, and pretended to be shy to avoid his hand. "Don't make trouble, I will write 2 more questions." Chen Yanche came over and kissed my face and smiled. I rushed to the bathroom after class and washed my face frantically with clean water. After I came out, Ji Pingan passed by with the test paper, looked at me puzzledly and said, "You fell into the swimming pool." I didn't answer. He then said, "I have something serious to say to you. A girl from the classroom downstairs has gone missing. She was the one who was bullied by Shen Qingran because of her stuttering. In fact, I saw her going out with Chen Yanche after school 2 days ago." A gust of wind blew by. It was almost summer, but I couldn't help shivering. I was too slow. I realized after doing it again that I was not the only one who was deceived by Chen Yanche's pitiful appearance. I was deceived by Chen Yanche in my previous life, and Ji Pingan went out after receiving his message at night because he felt sorry for him. The missing girl, probably it's the same. It's clear that behind every girl's accident, there is Chen Yanche. He has obviously helped Shen Qingran openly and secretly and has done all kinds of dirty things. On the surface, he has to pretend to be an innocent victim. Before the first exam of the college entrance examination, Chen Yanche dragged his not-so-flexible legs and crossed most of the school to come to my examination room to find me, just to hug me and say to me, "Inshi, good luck in the exam." I smiled and hugged him back. "It's the same for you, the freshman." A candidate passed by and sighed in a low voice. Look, what a pleasing campus couple. I'm so envious." After the college entrance examination, I will definitely. All the relationships that I hadn't had in the past 3 years were brought back. After listening to this, Chan Yenche curled his lips, raised his hand and gently touched the top of my head, then turned and left. I looked at his departing back and smiled slightly. If it was as expected, he must think that I have forgotten the hurt in my previous life and fell in love with him wholeheartedly again. Sure enough, on the night just after the exam, Chan Yenche couldn't wait to send me a message and ask me out. I finally finished the exam. Let's get together tonight, I miss you. He was ready to close the net and so was I. The address was at the bar where I found Chan Yenche in the beginning. It seemed this place can be regarded as a stronghold of Chan Yenche and Shen Qingran. As soon as I entered the door, a bartender, a bright man, brought me a glass of wine, raised his eyebrows at me ambiguously, and said that our little Chan rarely brings people here. I sneered in my heart and didn't say anything. Chan Yenche blocked it for me, picked up the glass of wine and drank it all. Goodbye, brother, he doesn't drink. The bartender said it was boring and turned away. I followed Chan Yenche to sit down. He raised his hand and asked someone to bring a hot drink. Don't drink anymore. He smiled and said, I ordered you a cup of hot chocolate, you drink this. He said half of the words and the rest of the words were stuck in his throat because he looked up and saw Shen Qingran. His hair had been permed again, and he was wearing a suspender top. He was holding a man who looked a few years older than him. For a moment, Chan Yenche opened his eyes wide in surprise. Shen Qingran's coming was obviously not what he expected, but was an unexpected part of his plan. Of course he didn't expect it because it was me who asked Shen Qingran to come. I used an unfamiliar number to send a message to Shen Qingran, telling her that her underground boyfriend Shen Yenche, the man who kept saying he loved her, was secretly with another girl and came to this bar tonight. Shen Qingran really couldn't sit still and took the bait successfully. I pretended to didn't see it. Shen Qingran pulled Chan Yenche's sleeve. I don't drink this. Who told you I can't drink? Chan Yenche came back to his senses and smiled at me. What do you want to drink? Or I interrupted him. I'll do it myself. I have already finished the college entrance examination. I can't be without even this little freedom. Lest I get suspicious, Chan Yenche finally compromised. Okay, I asked for a glass of sake that looks similar in color to the one in Shen Qingran's hand. Although the new glass must have been drugged, but it doesn't matter. Although Chan Yenche acted cautiously, but I still successfully exchanged my and Shen Qingran's glasses, just like when a magician performs magic. As long as the speed is fast enough and the technique is skillful enough, he can deceive the audience and make the fake look real. In the following time, Chen Yenche's eyes always fell on me from time to time. When I drank the last drop of wine in the glass, I put down the glass and called the person next to me. Chen Yenche, what are you waiting for? Are you curious why the effect of my medicine has not taken effect yet? He opened his lips as if he wanted to refute, but suddenly realized something. He grabbed my shoulders suddenly, and his 5 fingers tried hard to dig his nails into my flesh. You painted the wine glass in Qingran acrylic. How could he be so vicious? I paused, turned my head and looked at him. Don't blame me, blame yourself. If you hadn't drugged me first, how could the drug have been poured into him? Oh, by the way, the disguise was finally removed. I smiled at him and gave you a piece of advice. It has been a long time since he drank that glass of wine. Instead of questioning me here, you might as well go and see if Shen Qingran still has a human form. This bar was originally an underground black industry, and few people who come and go are clean. Shen Qingran is here alone drinking the drugged wine. His fate can be imagined. What else does Chan Yenche want to do? But at this time, sirens sounded outside the door. I had a good timing to call the police. When the police arrived here and found Shen Qingran, everything that should have happened had already happened. Shen Qingran had committed many crimes, including illegal imprisonment and extortion, long-term bullying of minors, and difficulty in confinement. Because his physical condition was worrying when he was found, he was first sent to the hospital. When he woke up, there was nothing wrong with his body, but his speech was incoherent. He could no longer recognize anyone, and he didn't even remember who he was. In other words, he was crazy. Mentally ill people cannot be punished by law normally, so he was transferred to a mental hospital in this city, receiving treatment. Before Chan Yenche's case was heard in public, I went to the mental hospital to see him once. He was in tatters without a single clean spot like a rag doll. He squatted on the ground, holding his head and talking to himself. I refused to accompany him and walked over alone to pull his hand away. Knowing that he couldn't understand now, I still spoke to him in a low voice, with a light tone, like a gust of summer breeze ready to float away at any time. Shen Qingran, I smiled and called his name. You know, in a sense you are already much luckier than me, at least you still have a life now, but in my last life I died on the spot dead. In that alley I didn't see the sun the next day, but fortunately I laughed out loud. God gave me another chance to start over, so that I could see with my own eyes the miserable state of you and Chan Yenche. You have become like this, and I guess Chan Yenche is not far from his death. Shen Qingran suddenly froze, raised his eyes and looked straight at me, then grabbed his hair without warning and shouted wildly. Several security guards rushed up to hold him. A month later, news came from the mental hospital that due to the negligence of the staff, Shen Qingran climbed to the top floor of the inpatient building in the early morning of the day before yesterday and unfortunately died in an accident. I had always had good grades and was admitted to the #1 middle school in the city with the 7th place in the city's high school entrance examination. When I was in the second year of high school, I chose physics, chemistry, biology, and pure science. The teacher asked me to think about it again and to change it while there was still a chance. He said that girls should not choose a combination of pure science, because they would not be able to get high scores if they did not study well. That was the first time I did not listen to my teachers when facing an important choice. I did not change my subject selection, and my talent and hard work did not disappoint me. In the entire third year of high school, physics was very difficult and only a few people in the whole school passed. But I got close to full marks, and even the physics teacher who did not think highly of me at the beginning said as long as I keep this state as expected after the college entrance examination, I can choose any of the colleges one by one with my grades. But all of this was ruined just because I was too righteous and couldn't bear to see my classmates being bullied, just because I couldn't bear to see them taking pleasure in other people's physical disabilities and making fun of them, just because I helped someone who shouldn't be helped. When the morning bell rang, all the hateful memories came to an abrupt end. This should be the last time I wake up from this nightmare. The college entrance examination results came out, and I scored 702 points and was admitted to the top 3 in the country as I wished. He was studying in a university. The gang of hooligans outside the school had already been sentenced. The final verdict of Chun Yin-che was also announced a month ago. He was suspected of drugging civilian women, spreading rumors to blackmail classmates, luring minors and indirectly causing the death of an underage girl. The evidence required for conviction was all available. There were as many as 15 witnesses who testified in court to identify his crimes. In the end, he was sentenced to death and executed immediately. I heard that he had a hard time before the execution because he was beaten a lot for the crime of civilian women. He tried to commit suicide countless times but all failed. After all, even the toothbrushes in prison are specially made. From the day Chun Yin-che was arrested and imprisoned to the day he was executed, no one went to see him. The hatred between the two lives was finally settled when the injection of the death drug took effect. In a psychology class in college, the teacher suggested that we write a letter to our past selves. I picked up the pen and pondered for a while, but decided to tell him not to be a flower in a greenhouse, a canary in a cage, or a daughter clinging to people. You should be a fire that sets the prairie on fire, a weed that never stops growing in the wilderness, and a vitality that can never be burned out even with a raging fire. No matter how difficult the situation is, you should be fearless and fight to the death. The whole text is over.